Hey, JJ. I know that you spent time with skinny Luka when he signed his contract. But we saw such a huge change with Nikola Jokic around 2020, where he really just changed all his eating habits, he changed his diet, and he's been able to maintain that since, and it really rocketed him to the position he's in. What do you expect, now that Luka has talked about how he's transformed his body, what do you expect him be able to do on the court differently and contribute to the team in a different way this season? And how much of a sense do you get about how long-term this is for him?
I get the sense from talking to him all summer, or spending time with him, not only just here, but at the Backstreet Boys, that this is his life. This is his routine. This is just a daily commitment to the new standard that he's set for himself. His excitement level, not just in what he hopes this season will be, but his excitement level in embracing this new standard was very high. Every time I talked to him, when I saw him in Vegas, and then you see him play in Eurobasket, and he's moving better, he's defending, like all the things that you saw at the end of last year, where the layoff from the calf injury, whatever emotions he was going through post-trade, like it had an effect on him. So again, it goes back to what I just said about LeBron. I expect the best version of Luka, and it's my job as a coach to bring that out on a daily basis. Well, I would say this: we've asked all our guys to be in championship shape, and not starting on Tuesday. And so the commitment level across the board from our team has been very high this summer. We've had organized workouts. The guys have played pickup nearly every day. We've added conditioning at the end. They've all been committed to it. I think for me, that's probably the biggest thing. It's not a basketball thing that he can or can't do. It's just all of us being in elite shape.
Hey guys, good to see you. Rob, to start with you, earlier this summer there was some reporting around you guys being more forward-looking with how you wanted to build the roster and the contracts, and obviously you just spoke to having that optionality and potentially making a move sooner. There was a recent report about you guys potentially kind of pivoting post-Luka extending and just spending some time with him and kind of him showing that it was worth potentially investing more in this roster. So if that is true, can you speak to just the process of kind of where maybe you guys were earlier in the offseason compared to where you are now?
Yeah, I think some of the words you used are maybe create a narrative. For us, the goal is the same as always. It's to build a championship team. And so I don't think there has been a pivot or a shift. I think that we were locked into getting to a place of optionality so we could address things both now or keep that optionality for the future. But the goal remains the same, is to put Lakers players on the court that can try to win this team a championship. And that's what we're committed to, and we feel like we have the optionality that if we're not seeing that in the first 20 to 25 games, that we can look to make moves to meet that goal.
And then JJ, schematically, what just with the new pieces, adding in DeAndre and Marcus and Jake, what are some of the changes or refinements that you're thinking about on both sides of the ball?
Hopefully you'll find out in the preseason.
Hey, Rob and JJ. With what you're talking about with the roster you assembled this summer, what ways do you think this current group can make things relatively easier for LeBron and Luka?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit to it and then let JJ address this. I mean, first and foremost, having a true center that is both great in the short roll when you have DeAndre Ayton in pick and rolls with Austin Reeves, Luka, and LeBron. His ability to catch passes in the short roll, we've already seen some of that in sort of the player workouts that have been going on. He's also a lob threat, so just adding that dimension, his size is very real. And then we know that LeBron and Luka both have thrived with players that have that 3-and-D component. We felt like Jake LaRavia is a young player that is really good now and has a lot of growth left in him. And then Marcus Smart has proven to be an elite 3 and D player at different points of his career. And our sports performance staff is working really hard with him to make sure he gets back to that form. It was just a couple seasons ago, I think he won Defensive Player of the Year. So there's still a lot to be excited about with adding him.
I mean, Rob covered most of it there. I think just touching for me a little bit on Jake, who didn't have his option picked up as a rookie for his 4th year. So probably unexpected that he ends up being a free agent this time a year or 2 ago. And so to get a young player in free agency for a team that is trying to win a championship, it's an incredible opportunity for myself and our player development department to have him continue to grow. I'm very high on him. His level of commitment to what we've asked of the guys this offseason has been very high. And obviously played against Marcus, played against DeAndre. Marcus and I had many battles, 13 stitches over my left eye one time. Played him in the playoffs. I know what I'm getting out of Marcus on a daily basis, so really excited to have him as part of our group. And DeAndre's been here the last couple weeks playing with the guys, and just super impressed by his size, his agility, his hands. I think he's going to make a wonderful pick and roll partner for Luka.
Hey guys, JJ, I guess I'm wondering, through your conversations this offseason pertaining to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, what's required to reach that level of greatness and success?
It's actually very simple, just a daily commitment. And so, I'll share this with you guys. My team, they already know this because that's all I've talked about all summer, but we're going to ask guys to be in championship shape, have championship communication, and championship habits. And that's a daily commitment to that. Our guys this summer have been awesome. I know LeBron is always committed to those things. Luke has been committed. So to me, that's what it is. It's a daily commitment. And Saban has this thing. It's don't tell me, show me. And so that's what we're asking of our players.
Guys, Law Murray at The Athletic. Good to see you guys. So this time a year ago, you had D'Angelo Russell at point guard, Anthony Davis at center. Now you have Luka Doncic at point guard, if you want to use those positions, and DeAndre Ayton at center. So for JJ, from utilizing the pieces standpoint, Rob, the roster fit standpoint, how do you kind of assess the similarities and differences of how you feel about those positions today versus where you were this time a year ago?
Are you asking me to compare players?
Compare just the preparation that you have given the players that you have. I go back to the philosophy of how do I want this team to play? How do I put this team in the best position? My staff and I, we were talking the other day just about early offense formations and what best fit last year's group versus what is going to best fit this year's group. And so you are constantly sort of evaluating those things. With DeAndre, it's all right, what are the quick hitters we use for AD, to get him an easy bucket here and there, to get him a touch. So you certainly feel good. I felt really good about our roster coming into last season. I feel good again.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question on each of you. And first for JJ, do you see anything different from Rui compared to last season?
I would describe Rui as a joy to be around every day. And that joy is almost always there. And what I've seen just in the last few weeks, just a higher and higher level of confidence. And I think you still have to look at him as a young player in this league. And I think for any young player, as your confidence grows, your joy grows, your production and output grows. So again, it's small, nuanced things, but Rui's playing with a lot of confidence. He's carrying himself with a lot of confidence, and it has been and is just an absolute pleasure to coach.
And for Rob, you already talked about the player expiring contract. And what do you think Rui's future looks like with the Lakers?
Yeah, like JJ said, just seeing his growth from the time we traded for him, it feels like every season he's just gotten a little better at something. And just being around him the last couple of weeks, you could tell there's a confidence in his spirit and a comfortability with this place and JJ and his staff. It just exudes out of Rui. So I think this year is going to be another jump up for him, and he's a really, really important player for our team.
Hey, JJ. Obviously, getting DeAndre in the offseason was a big acquisition. Just would love to hear you just expand on how important of a role he's going to have, how critical he's going to be to this team, and just what some of your expectations are for him as the season begins.
His expectations are no different than any other player. I'll just say that. Again, it goes back to the daily commitment to those three things. This is a guy who was a #1 pick, who has produced in every sort of situation he's been in, whether that's been early in his career, post Chris Paul trade. Like he's played in the NBA Finals, been the anchor of a defense and a starter on an NBA Finals team. So I think even just being in the gym with him the last couple weeks, this guy played pick and roll with Chris Paul. Like there's not a more detail-oriented player. Like his feel for two-man action is just super high, and really excited to see him play with Luka.
Hi. So you mentioned that you know what you're going to get out of Marcus. What's the hope for what he's going to add to this team?
I would say toughness. I've already told him this. Like we need his voice. That's part of communication. His competitive spirit, and defensively, he probably went a little bit under the radar because of the last 2 years, but he still grades out in nearly every metric in 80th percentile or higher, so he's still a very versatile defender. And to me, he's always been a little bit of an underrated playmaker. I think with Austin and Luka, those guys are obviously going to be primary ball handlers for us, but Marcus can be that secondary ball handler.
Hey, right over here, Jordan. Wanted to ask you about Austin Reeves, a person who has been extremely low profile every single summer, but he's in here every single night, every single day, and just the way he's improved his game every single season, and some things that you've seen about him, because I know a lot of times during the summer he's very low key, but I know he's been in the lab probably more than anybody too.
I mean, when he's not on the golf course. That guy shot a 65 this summer. Make sure you ask him about that on Tuesday. It's been a constant comment from our staff. He's been the best. Every day he's been in the gym, he's been the best player in the gym. But I see, again, this goes back to last May, all summer, his body is really good right now. Like he's really strong. His burst, his athleticism, it's evident that he spent a lot of time working on his body this summer.
Rob, last year at this time you mentioned a willingness to trade your first-round pick if it brought a sustainable Lakers excellence. Obviously that happened with the acquisition of Luka. Is that still the kind of player that's required for a first-round pick to be traded away, or has the market or needs on the roster changed there?
I think I would just say it again, if a transaction comes to us that leads to sustained Lakers excellence and puts us in a position to increase our odds of winning a championship, we would put future draft capital in to make that move.
JJ, in looking back at the things you learned during your first season of coaching, were there elements like pacing yourself through an entire season, emotionally, spiritually, when to figure out the proper time to change, like sort of long view type things that you learned?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to one of the earlier questions where I talked about that first 4 to 6 weeks. That was like, you know, my second interview during the NBA Finals with RP. The last question he asked me, he said, "All right, well, if Boston wins tonight, and I offer you the job, are you ready to get to work?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, like of course." So I come off literally the busiest year of my life and go right into this, hire 17 people, then right into the season. And obviously the season is a lot. It's a lot for a player, coach, it's a lot for Rob, it's a lot for fans. Like it's a lot. So I really use those 4 to 6 weeks to like do a lot of self-assessing, spend a lot of time talking with my performance coach. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff I learned. And some of that is finding the balance of my own sort of competitive edge with what the situation requires. I'll give you an example. And I told some of you guys after the season, like, I'm on a game day. I'm not going to turn off. And I've got to have the ability when I come talk to you guys to turn off.